Focus. Focus on me. Why is it not focusing? Oh, because I pushed the wrong button. That's why. How's it going, guys? Happy Thursday. How have you been? It's been a hot minute, as Renee Ritchie says. I just want to say hello and get some, talk about some fun stuff today. Let's talk about some fun stuff today. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about buying gear and what the true value of your gear is and what does it actually mean. So let's say some hellos. Bailey, good morning to you on the other side of the planet. How's it going? I hope you're having a great day. We're getting towards the end of ours. Happy Thursday, Avars. How's it going? Beautiful. Hello. How are you? Thank you, for joining in on this stream today. And we're going to be talking about, actually, let's talk about a whole bunch of stuff because it's been a moment. Yeah, exactly. I think I'm going to get gear acquisition syndrome while watching the stream. All right. You have no idea. There's not only are you going to get gas from this stream. Ooh, that doesn't sound right, but you're also going to spend more money than you probably wanted to. And I'm going to explain why. And there's a very powerful reason why the value of gear is super important. But before we get into that, I have a question for you guys. What did you guys buy for, or if you bought anything, did you guys buy anything for Black Friday? Did you spend your money? Did you get some great discounts? Yeah, tell me what you guys bought. Tell me what you guys spent your money on. And I'm going to bring up something because I have some goodies for you as well that I want to talk through. But yeah, let me know what you guys bought for the Cyber Monday, Black Friday deals. Did you guys pick up anything? I did. I picked up some new lenses. So I'm gonna show you. I bought new lenses. You ready? I bought literally new lenses. Come on. There you go. Yeah, I bought me some Ray-Bans. There's my setup. So I've had these glasses before, but I was doing some stuff outside and dropped it. I had them hanging here, and then they fell out and literally just scraped on the cement and scratched both lenses. So this is the extent of my Cyber Monday, Black Friday deals that I ended up picking up for myself. I didn't buy anything else, but yeah, and these are Ray-Bans. They're also polarized, so they're great for driving. The same technology, same kind of stuff that you guys would have on polarized lenses. They block out reflected light really nicely. So when you're driving, you don't actually see that the reflection of your dashboard. It cuts that out. So if you have anything on your dashboard or on your dash, it'll block that reflection that is coming through, bouncing off, and then going into your eyes. And did you know that pilots are not allowed to wear polarized glasses while they fly? Because there's already a polarized film on the cockpit, on the actual windshield, that if they wore polarized glasses, it distorts everything. I don't know if you ever noticed, but there's always this like purple haze when you have polarized versus polarized, and when you twist them together. So, hello, happy Thursday to you. Thanks for hanging out today. So Bailey didn't buy anything. You were on holiday, so didn't check the emails at all. Good, because you were probably bombarded with Cyber Monday deals. Also didn't need anything. And that is a great point that we're going to talk about today. But speaking of deals, there's something I want to chat with you guys about, because if you know me and you know how much I love Motion VFX, and if you guys are using either DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro, Motion VFX, they're doing a little giveaway, which essentially it is so simple to get this giveaway. Like everyone that enters will get something. So all you have to do is write a comment. So just hear me out. I'm gonna make a whole video. My next week's video is gonna be about Motion VFX, and I'm gonna talk about this in more detail in that video. But as of right now, for you guys can get in there a little bit faster. So you need to write a comment either on this video or on next week's video, which is either or is fine. So you write a comment about Motion. What would you like to see in Motion VFX? And then, so it's a two-step process. All you need to do is, so you write that comment on this video or on the next video, and then you have to, on Instagram, you have to DM them. So you probably have to follow them. You have to DM them, letting them know about the Raphael Ludwig giveaway. And you have to write your email for the Motion VFX email that you use to buy stuff. And you will get $15 credited to your account. So it's a free 15 bucks for you on your Motion VFX account by just DMing them that you are you're part of this giveaway, that you want to do that. So I'm going to be kind of holding this on for the next little bit, and literally everyone that does this is going to get 15 bucks towards something that you want on Motion VFX. And they have tons of stuff, and there's still stuff on sale now. So if you get the sale plus this 15 bucks, you're getting this stuff for much less. And they're fantastic. These plugins are time savers, and that's what it's all about. And that's what we're actually gonna be talking about. So again, write a comment on this video or next week's video, then DM on Instagram, Motion VFX, with your account email, like put that in the DM, the one that you use to log into Motion VFX, and you will get, you'll get 15 bucks. And if you don't have Instagram or you don't want to use Instagram, you can also email them at partners@MotionVFX. That will work as well if you don't want to use Instagram. So that out of the way. So Motion VFX, go check it out. I'll leave the info in the description as well, what you need to do, but that is it. So $15 free for a text or DM to Motion VFX. So in other news, so what we're going to be talking about today is very specifically, hold on, wait. Bailey says, I know Tumbuk got new lenses that are more related to camera stuff. He got, he got the anamorphic lens. His video today was fantastic. He kept moving, and the anamorphic lens flares were fantastic to watch. But yeah, they're definitely not cheap. But speaking of not cheap, speaking of buying gear for you, so buying gear it's stressful because it's going to be a lot of money, and there's always a lot of questions. Should I get the 8 gig, 16 gig, 64 gig? Should I get the 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte? Should I get this camera? Should I get a full frame? Should I get a crop sensor? Should I get this lens or that lens? Should I get the 2.8 or the 4? And it's just endless. Like, you can literally buy whatever you want, and you can blow your whole budget on buying one thing, or you can try to relegate it to numerous cheaper items. But I'm gonna deter you from buying cheaper versions of those items. And I know a lot of times I say, buy something that will last you 3 to 5 years, and I'm still going to stick to that. Like, for instance, when I go to buy something, when I literally decide that I'm going to put my money into a piece of equipment that I will use, I always have a simple idea of how to say yay or nay to a purchase. First one is, do I need it or do I want it? And if I need it, okay, then that's it's usually a business need. I have a project coming up that I can use it for. And then if I need it, then I ask myself, can I rent it for that project? Because sometimes just renting the camera or even a high-powered computer for a month is much cheaper than trying to just buy it out on your own, because not only do you have to put that money up front to be able to use it, you also have to worry about maintaining it over the course of that time. And when it comes to bigger projects, sometimes you need 2 or 3 cameras to work with, which is all fine. Like if the budget is there and the money's there, then renting it makes complete sense, and you kind of pass it forward, you build it into your budget. But let's say you want something like for a live streaming setup, you want your camera, you want it to be the best that you can be. A lot of people, they tend to want to buy the thing that will just do the bare minimum. I don't like buying the bare minimum anything. I like buying something that can have multi-purpose use over many years. So I put the call out last week about help deciding on buying another camera, because I'm at a point where I actually need a third camera in my workflow. And I also want something that can do 120 frames in 4K. I want it to have 10-bit, because all my cameras that I have currently are only 8-bit, so I'm still able to make that work. Like the camera that I'm using right now is an 8-bit camera, and it's HD. It has 4K, 10-bit, but it's cropped, and so that's a limitation that I don't like. But when I bought the camera that I'm using right now, the R, for this live stream, I bought it because I wanted a mirrorless camera, and I already had a 1DX before that. So it wasn't, if I had no camera, I would have stayed probably with the 1DX, or I would have bought a 5D Mark IV at the time, because that's if I needed a photo camera. So if I have the need for it and I can rent it, boom, done. I go into that route. But if I need something and I know that I can make use out of it, like say it's a computer, a new computer is on deck as well as a camera. So if I need a new computer, I don't want to buy just the bare minimum and save $200 because I didn't want to spend an extra, do a little upgrade to a bigger hard drive or a little bit more RAM. Like the computer that I have, and this is where the true value of your equipment comes down. If you are in a position to use your gear to make money, say you spend $5,000 on a computer. If you spend $5,000 on that computer, so buying up a little bit, get a little bit more RAM, get the faster processor, get a bigger internal hard drive, and just overall just spec it out as much as you can, even if you have to wait a little bit, even if you have to wait a little bit to buy it, a few months later to get that extra little bit of cash to buy it, then it's worth it. Because if you spread it out over 4 years, let's use an average of 4 years, that $5,000, hold on, let me pull up the calculator, because my internal math calculator. So let's just say, can I share my screen? Probably. Boom, look at this. Can I add myself? What's going on here? No, not that guy. I want to use, where's my stuff? Nope. Well, that's not working. Okay, so let's just say that it's a $5,000 purchase that you are then dividing it by 48 months. That comes out to $100. That comes out to $105 over the course of 4 years. So it's a $100 investment. That's the way I kind of break it down. And that's just over 4 years. So that's the true cost of it. But how much can that piece of gear make you in that month? Can it make you more than $100 in that month? If the answer is yes, then it's worth it. And now if that piece of gear can make you $1,000 in a month for every month that you use it, how much should you be spending on that piece of gear. Your true value of the gear is how much can it return on that initial investment. So say you spent total for all your gear, camera, computer, everything. Say it was 10,000 bucks. And you have a 4-year kind of return over that. So then that equipment needs to make you at least $200 a month on average. So it doesn't have to be every month if you don't get that 200 bucks. But if the next month you have a project and you can charge an extra 400 bucks on top of your rate, because your rate should literally be how much would it cost for you to do that thing? No equipment, because equipment should be that add-on that you put. So if you do one job a month and you charge for your rate plus an extra 400 bucks for your equipment, like that's $40,000 worth of gear that you should be able to keep making the payments for. Yes, I know that it's upfront, so I'm not saying go spend 40,000 bucks, but if you buy something that is worthwhile, that will last over a 4-year period, like my computer, my latest computer, the one I have, is still a 2017 computer, and it wasn't completely maxed out, but it was pretty up there. So when I think about it, I think I spent 4,600 bucks. It wasn't crazy. But that computer, that one piece of gear, and I do most of my work on a computer, that one piece of gear has made me, I would probably say, close to $500,000. Just that one piece of gear. Now that's on average. That's kind of going through and doing that. And I've gotten to the point in my career where I can charge those premium rates. That's my value. It's not about my rate, my day rate or anything like that. So a $5,000 investment really becomes small in comparison to the rest of it when it comes to the amount of money that it's able to bring in. And if you put all the camera gear, if you do all that kind of stuff, and it's long-term investments and you spend a little bit more money, that's why I'm okay to put money into a C70 and buy another camera, because not only do I know that it's going to last me 3 to 5 years, but I know that I can go back and sell the other cameras that I have. So it's not like I've spent when I bought the C200, it would cost about 7,500 bucks Canadian, and I can still sell it for about $6,000 today, and it's already about 3 years old. So when you're thinking long term like that, when you're thinking longer, not just like, oh, what's going to last me for 6 months, that's the wrong way to think about it. And when you have that price tag in front of you, you're like, ooh, that's a $4,000 camera, and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I should buy it. But if it's able to make you at least the payment for it, as though you were leasing it, say, for 4 years, if whatever work you're doing can make you that amount of money back from it, then that's a great place to be. So again, a $5,000 purchase over 4 years is about $105. So about $100 when it comes down to it. And it's not when you justify it that way, and it is a justification, and it's an oversimplification of the way it works. If you can pay for it fully, that's a much better way to do it than to put it on a credit card, because all of a sudden that 4 years becomes, it's a $10,000 purchase when you put it onto a credit card. So the more you can pay for it kind of upfront or pay it off as quickly as possible, so you're not incurring any interest, is the ultimate goal. So, and it's not about going out and buying an entire consortium of all your gear. Like all the gear that I've bought over, like that I have everything. It's been about 15 years of just slowly buying more and better gear and then selling and then reinvesting that back into a purchase price. When I buy a camera or something and then I sell it, I consider that whatever the difference is as the rental for that period of time. So if I bought a camera, when I bought my 1DX, it was about $7,000 all in, and I sold it for $4,800. So that $2,500 difference for the 3 years that I had it is the rental that I charge myself essentially for that. If I was to rent in 1DX for 3 years, it would have cost way more than that. Like there's a point where diminishing returns happens, where if you rent it more than a day, it makes more sense to buy something. So if I was to rent a camera for a 3-month long project, it would make more sense to buy it and then sell it afterwards than to rent it, because the rental cost would just become a way of not being able to sustain that. So what do you guys think? Hey Mac, how's it going? You held a workshop until now. Oh, and I just want to say apologies, because I have not been watching YouTube as much as I have been in the past, and so I haven't caught up. I have a whole watch list of stuff that I'm trying to get through. So if you've not seen me in the comments, like I've been literally on a month-long unplanned hiatus because of lots of different things. So I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, I'm just glad to be back. I'm glad to be chatting with you guys today and having a good time. So hello from Turkey. How's it going? So I'd much prefer to spend more money on a piece of gear that is going to last me 6 years to come, rather than get cheaper and have buying different cameras every year. Like, absolutely. There's every camera that I've purchased, that I've ever purchased, has always been something that is, it's more than I wanted to spend. But when it comes down to the end of life use of it, it actually becomes so much cheaper because of the resale factor for higher end gear. Higher end gear holds its value. Really good lenses hold their value. There was I was bidding on a new lens that I wanted to get. It was a 24mm Canon 1.4, and a guy was selling all his gear. He was retiring, and he posted this lens for about $500, and I'm like, okay, I know he knows that this is worth more than that, right? Because he had a whole list of other stuff that he was selling. And so I was like, well, I'll put my bid in and, see what happens. It got up to about $1,700 before people stopped bidding on this item, because for $1,800 you can buy a brand new one. So I wouldn't have paid $1,800 or $1,700 for where this lens got up to. But at the initial price, if you understand it, if you understand the value of good gear, it will hold its value really well. So speaking of return of investment, a guitar I've played with since 1983 has brought in elbow bump loads. Good. Yes, absolutely. So your workshops are unlisted videos on YouTube. We'll let you know when they go live, really live. When you go really live. I'm looking forward to that, because you were talking about your multi-camera setup. So feel the same thing about renting through selling. Yeah, it's such a powerful way to reframe the mindset. It's not easy spending a large chunk of money. It is not. There is mental blocks, especially if you're coming from this freelance world, if you're coming from the creative realm, you know that every dollar really matters. I know that every dollar really matters. I know that having that gear, you'll have this feeling like, ooh, it'd be so good if I had that gear, but then like, ooh, it's really good to keep this money in my bank account, or pay off some debts, or put it towards something else. Food is also good, especially when you're younger and you're just kind of like, you're not able to charge at the level, and you don't have those 5 key clients that are able to kind of rotate through the year and pay for like 80% of the money that you're making. And there's a point where if you do spend 5 years buying the best kind of gear that you can afford, always get the best that you can afford. So that doesn't mean take out a loan to buy a red camera package for $100,000. unless you're going to have at least 100 days on set with that camera, then it doesn't make sense. And that's where the second part of this really comes down to. A lot of people buy cameras and they're just doing this kind of live streams or vlogging or whatnot, and YouTube doesn't make enough money on its own. So it would be hard for me to justify buying a $5,000 camera if it wasn't going to be making me money somehow. Like if I had 100,000 people on my live streams and I was generating a lot of money and I had a lot of sponsorships, then I would buy the best gear that I could afford, because again, over a 4 or 5 year period, like once it's set up, and I know that everyone that I've ever talked to, when they buy a good piece of gear, they take care of it. And they make sure that it's in a nice case. It has the right camera cage or kind of support. And buying a really good tripod. A tripod will literally last you your entire life. Buying good lights should last you 10 years easily, especially with LED lights now. Like I would say that this light that I have now, the aperture one, it's been almost on consistently for the better part of 3 years now. I've used it on sets. I've used it in my office. Sometimes I just turn it on because I like the color temperature of the light versus the light that's built in here. And all this money adds up. Like there's a point where it's like, okay, do I need a fourth light? Do I need a fourth camera? And that's when knowing your own restraints, that's where understanding the value of your gear and knowing the difference between needing something and wanting something. If you need something and you have another piece of gear that you're not using, that was a want buy, sell it. Put that money towards the next piece of gear, the one that you will actually use. Because so many times I've seen people buy gear and not use it. Like how many people have, there's a gimbal down there. It's fantastic, but I would probably say I've used it 5 times. Because when I've been on shoots that actually require gimbals, I hire people that have much stronger backs. They're much, ready to do that kind of stuff. I'd rather have that because the not having back pain is way more valuable to me than is getting that perfect shot. I'd rather hire someone that is really good at doing that and has the back strength to do that, because I don't do it enough. It's like if you ever seen a Steadicam, I actually wanted to be a Steadicam operator. I was like, I'm gonna go there. I was ready to take the course. I was ready to, just because I wanted to be part of the things that I can offer, especially before YouTube was available, and when I was really going down the path of the cinematography and wanting to work in film. But then I tried it once, and after 15 minutes, my back was just killing. And so I talked to a whole bunch of other Steadicam operators, and they said, yeah, their back always hurts, and they have to work out their back, and that feeling never goes away. And it's like, I can't do that for the next 30 years. It's not something that I wanted to do. And that's why a lot of the Steadicam operators you do see that are really good, are really fit, because it's like they're working out just to maintain. So that's why I landed in post-production. That's why I like being here. But yeah, finesse it in post. I'll let them fix it in camera. So do an inventory of your gear. Really look at the gear that you have and ask yourself, do I need this piece of gear? Is it fulfilling everything that I need in the moment? Can I keep using this for the next 3 years, however old the gear is? So at least 3 years. And if you find yourself that the gear is lacking you and it's not fulfilling your full potential, and you know that you can get it to a point where it will earn you the month cost of ownership, which again, I showed a $5,000 purchase works out to about $100. over 4 years. And if you keep it for 5 years, well, all of a sudden that becomes like $80. If you have it for 6 years, now you're talking like, $65 for that month. And people spend $100 just buying a new phone, and they lease it that way over the next 2 years. Tom, I just want to say your video today was, I loved the look of the anamorphic lenses. I was actually talking about that earlier. It was, not only was it so good, informative, because I was actually looking at, does the MKH50 need the cloud lifter? And then literally that video popped up. And I don't think it does, but that's a whole nother story. I'm not exactly sure, because I think that needs phantom power, I think. Anyways, so just really talking about the gear that you own. And if it's serving the purpose and it's paid for itself, then you can really move forward and buy that next piece of gear to level up. Because when I first bought my first camera, I literally had a Nikon Coolpix 90 or something like that. It was one that kind of transformed and turned, and it was like 6 megapixels. It looked like garbage, but I was still able to make it work. And it was my first camera. Then I went on to Nikon D60 or D90 or something like that. I can't remember exactly the model. And it was just for photos, because I went from film photography, studying it, to digital photography, and the moment, and I was learning how to shoot on actual celluloid film, which costs, like, I spent more developing film in my first year of university than I think I've spent on all my gear that I have right now. So the moment digital came in, I was first on that train. The best way I could describe it was like, it was like having sex with a condom, and you didn't have to worry about overshooting. Anyways, that's gross. I'm sorry, but you're here for the ride, aren't you? Anyways, so Avars and Bailey, for both of you guys, buy the very best thing that you can afford. And it really doesn't matter which brand you go with. And it really doesn't matter if it's one way or another, or if you buy something and then like 4 years later you completely switch to something else. Any camera that you get right now, any gear that you get right now, that's in that past that threshold and goes into that prosumer market, it's going to be really, really good gear. So it's actually worth it. You go Canon, you're going to have a great image. You're going to get some great quality. You go Sony, you're going to have fantastic quality and great image. You go Blackmagic, you'll buy it for cheaper, but the image is still fantastic. You won't have the autofocus abilities that the other cameras are able to have. If you go with Godox or with Aperture or with Nanlite or with any of those gears, any of that gear, if you buy cheap gear gets expensive. That's right. It's same to the adage. If you think a professional is expensive, if you feel a professional is expensive, hire an amateur. And I know that there's this whole adage of you need to learn the fundamentals. If you buy the most expensive camera that is out there, but you don't know how to use it, it's going to be no different than buying the cheapest camera. Because if you know the fundamentals of lighting and composition and framing and camera movement and all that stuff, and you understand good audio, then you can create a great image with cheap gear. But it does become a little bit harder to get the same kind of quality through cheaper gear. But getting a good piece of gear, or even the best piece of gear, and not knowing the fundamentals, not knowing the actual how to use that gear, it's not going to matter if it's Sony, Canon, Blackmagic, Arri, Red. I don't care. It's not going to look good. Like when people chat about, does gear matter? They usually use the example. It's like, well, they, on film sets, they wouldn't use this camera. It's like, no, they wouldn't. But also the director isn't the one using the camera. It's not a one-man band on set trying to figure out how to light and move the camera and frame. And, it's like, then it gets so difficult. And having a camera that you need to build out, that takes an hour to build out and takes two people to use and autofocus, or not autofocus, but like, there's no way one person can do that. The whole creative aspect of this industry is about collaboration, is about working with people. Even professional photographers, the high-end professional photographers have assistants on hand to move the lights, to angle the lights, to move the gear. They help them with that. They'll switch out the lenses while the photographer is working with the talent. Like, you have to understand that you don't have to work in a silo. You don't have to work in an isolation cube. But if you do, because you've put yourself there, because you're choosing not to, charge more to hire the assistants to go with you, can you do it? Yeah, sure you can do it. Are you going to be stressed out? Yes. Is the gear going to really help you? Probably not in those cases. So, should you spend that extra $500 buying a better computer? Yes. Should you buy a full frame camera versus an APC camera? Yes. Buy the best that you can actually afford if it's going to make you money. If it's making you money, then it doesn't really matter if it's an extra $500. It really does not. Like, I kind of laughed at myself because I was looking at getting the new the MacBook Pro M1 Max, and I'm like, should I get the 64 or should I get the 32? And like 32 gig, and the difference is $500, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, computers for me, from my perspective, make me the most amount of money. Cameras can pay. Each camera that I've bought has paid for itself within the first year. And I don't shoot that much. I don't shoot enough to be considered a full-time DP or cameraman. But I do at least one shoot a month. And that more than covers the cost of renting that same amount of gear. That is built into my cost for coming out and filming something. And usually it's simple, kind of talking head stuff. If it's something bigger, then I'll get a bigger crew. Then we'll rent more cameras, and I'll rent mine as part of the package. But it pays for itself. So if it's a want and you just want to get it, then be very careful on how you spend your money, because if it's not going to make you money, then it becomes a liability, if anything else. And try not to put it on your credit cards if you can't pay it off sooner. Don't let it sit for years and years and years where you've already sold it and it's still sitting on your credit card. Those are things to really try to get away from. So yes, I mentioned your 3-camera setup. M1 Mini solved it all. Great. I'm glad that it happened. It all synced in different ways. Perfect. I'm glad it's working out. I'm looking forward to it. So you're filming a video about this kind of thing, and I made the analogy: if I could get $100,000 worth of gear, but then I have to get a studio and hire someone and pay those fees and set it up. So by the end of setting up, I'd be too tired to want to make the video in the end. Yes, when I'm directing a shoot, I hire a camera guy, I hire an audio engineer to come out, I hire assistants to help each one of them. There's usually a gaffer. And so when I come on set, I'm dealing with just the client and the producer, and we're talking about what we want to get. Then I deal with the camera and the DP, talk with the audio, And when they're all set with the camera angle that we want to get, and then it's just me and the talent on screen at that point, where I don't have to stress about that and you're sweating and you're like, running around. That does not look professional when you go on set and you're the one doing everything. And if the client's only paying $500, well, then you shouldn't be showing up with a $10,000 camera rig. I'm sorry, that's just not the best way to make money. The client will gladly take that opportunity and get that great image if you know what you're working with. But if they're not paying you the rate, like, just think, take away your rate. If you were just to rent say a C200, a lens, all the lights, if you were just to rent the gear, you're probably talking $2,000 just to rent the gear for one day. That doesn't even include your time or an audio engineer's time or anyone else's time. That doesn't even include any of the post-production that needs to happen. That doesn't include any hard drives that you need to buy that you then hand off to the client because they want the raw footage. So if you're serious about this industry and you want to make money, you have to be charging accordingly. And I know that there is a going rate, but if you call up, just cold call any production company in your location and just pretend you're a client and be like, hey, I want to shoot this video, and just, make the specs. It's a talking head. It's a 1-day shoot. It's going to be in our office. One camera. How much would it cost? They're going to come and give you a quote for $5,000 to $8,000. Now, kind of translate that to your currency. That's what a production company will do. Now, if you find a smaller company where it's just a one-man band, he may charge you $3,000 to $5,000 because there's a point where people realize that it's not worth it to do something for $500. $500 is what I would charge for half of my day just to show up with nothing. Like, that's just me to show up for 4 hours and I'll stand there. Like, that's where you need to get to. Like, you don't have to charge that, but just know that you're a piece of gear if you're doing the same thing. And if you show up there's a camera operator that I know, and he charges just to show up on set with his van, with all his gear, literally prepackaged. It's a package deal. He shows up for about $4,500. He'll drive up with, and that's just to do camera stuff. So he's not directing, he's just doing camera. So but he's gotten to that point where he's already paid for a lot of the equipment. It's already there, and he's been doing it long enough where now it's just money in his pocket. But if you're just getting started and you're not charging that kind of rate as well, then you have to really consider what you're doing. Because the true value of your gear should be making you almost 100 times. Okay, maybe not 100, but it should be making you 10 times the amount of money that you've put into it. 10 times. And the goal is to try to get it 100x. You want it to be making you as much money as possible. I maybe not 100x. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe that's my own goal. But yeah, like I said, if you buy a $5,000 camera, that camera should be easily making you at least $100 extra a month for the work that you do, to cover the cost of just renting it, essentially. And if you need to have 3 cameras, so say that's $15,000 worth. So now it has to be making you $300. So take all your gear, the computer, the lenses, and just like, how much does that need to be making you a month? And $500 should be 1 day's worth of work in this industry. So if you buy a computer and it's $5,000, that computer should be able to make you $100 minimum a month. But like, when you break it down to those kind of simple facts, that's easy. Like, you should be easily making the cost of that computer over 2 months. Like it should pay for itself in 3 months. If you're serious about this kind of business. If you're still getting started and you're working up to that point, then it doesn't need to make you that kind of money, but you should still be able to charge roughly for 1 day a month to get that kind of cost. And it's about finding that client. It's about getting out there and putting yourself out there. And I did a whole live stream talking about how to find clients, how to find work, where to look for work, and what kind of conversations you need to have. And there is foot in the door pricing. If there's a client that comes up that could potentially be a long-term client, then it's worth to have that conversation. If you don't have a reel to back up your price, to say, hey, this is my foot in the door pricing. I'm just getting started. You seem like a really great client to work with, so let's work something out, and you can get in the door. Because ultimately, it really does come down to trying to find 5 clients that pay for 80% of the yearly income. I think like I mentioned that. Mac is money printing machine for most creatives. $500 saving is silly. Yes. Like I said, the last computer that I bought, I spent $4,600, $4,500, and it's been literally on nonstop 24/7 for 4 years. There has been issues with it, so I did have to get it fixed and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it was still covered under warranty. But I'm past warranty at this point with that computer. But it has literally made me the most amount of money. The cameras have paid for themselves. All my gear has paid for itself. When I also understand that there is rent, there is life, there is food, there's all this other stuff. And this is why it's almost crucial right from the beginning of your career as a freelancer to not necessarily buy everything all at once. Buy the bare minimum. If you're doing camera stuff, buy the bare minimum. Try to buy the best you can, even if you need to save up a little bit more, or rent on projects until you've made enough money to cover those kind of things. Buy the best that you can that will last 3 to 5 years, because there will be a point where it's going to be more money in your pocket if you start charging properly. Don't say yes to everything. No is a powerful phrase to say to jobs. No literally means next opportunity. Always think of that. It's better to say no to a bad opportunity and move on to the next opportunity. N-O. And no is a powerful, powerful thing to say. And a lot of people don't like to be said no to, where it's like, no, this isn't a project for me. Like if you're working with a client and you tell them, you give them an honest budget, it's fair, it's within reason for what they're asking for. And they're like, ooh, this project is, you give them a budget of say $3,500, and like, ooh, no, we only had a tenth of that. We only had $300 that we wanted to spend. And he's just like, oh, okay. Well, I'm not the person to be able to help you with this. Maybe, there's someone else that could do it for that price, but that person isn't me. And it's okay to have those conversations. Because a lot of times, and I mentioned this many, many times, I've had this happen where I would say no to an opportunity because it just wasn't worth the time. I'd rather do my own thing at the time and move forward and create my own things for literally nothing. That client, those people would come back 3-5 years later saying they have this big budget, they want to work with me. And it's okay to walk away from things that aren't going to work. And it's okay to hand out a proposal to, not even a proposal, just a price range to a client and have the client say, that's out of our budget. There was a meme that went on online for a while where they talked about how a client complained about them, being too expensive, and the other person just responding, it's like, I'm not here to be affordable. It's not that I'm not out of it's not that I'm not affordable. I'm just out of your price range. And apparently there's that psychological cue that happens in a lot of clients where they're like, no, I can afford you. And then they get, there's this weird dynamic where it's okay to walk away from those kind of opportunities. Again, next opportunity, because that is, I know as a younger creative, I had the huge FOMO. It's like, ooh, if I don't take this job, I'll miss this opportunity. No, there's always plenty of opportunities, and there's plenty of money in this world to be made. Like literally governments are just printing it. So it's like the money is fake. The only reason you and I agree that $100 bill is $100 is because we agree on it. There's no intrinsic value in that piece of paper. It's not even paper anymore. It's like polymer, or it's a number on a screen. Next opportunity. Or as I like to say, not today. Why, thank you. I am such a nice and knowledgeable guy. Do not walk onto shoots where... How do I explain this? Because I've literally been in that situation. I've been in the situation where I felt I needed to work on that thing because I needed to do something for my reel. I needed to show a logo that I worked with these people. But the people that have those kind of budgets, they're not even worth having the logo on your reel. So what actual value? What is the value of a cheap client? Nothing. The value of great clients is, I would rather work for a reduced rate for a big company, because the value I can take and put it onto my website as I worked with Adidas and Lexus and Toyota and name big brand here, because people go onto the site, they do two things. And this is something I'm going to actually talk about in the new year a little bit more. So people, this is always what happens. People go to my site, they get referred to my site, or they stumble upon it, which rarely happens. But people get referred to my site, they do two things immediately. And this is why if you go to Capricorn8.com and you look at my actual site, I have my reel and I have logos right under the reel. So from a client, a new potential client, they see my reel, they play it, they're like, okay, seems to know what he's doing. And then they see logos like, oh, he worked with these guys. Okay, that's enough. I don't have to do any more selling than that. I don't have to make this hard sell. I know strategic branding. It's like, no, just like, I worked with these people. They trusted me. You should trust me too. Like, that's how simple the messaging does get. Like, I have not even updated my reel online since 2014. Does anybody care? No, I'm still busy to here. Like, I have plenty of work, and the people that I work with are amazing, because I've found over time, I've built that trust. I've built those relationships with clients that come back, and some people only come back and it's a 2-week project every year, but that is built over the last 10 years where they know that they're just comfortable coming to me. I'm going to get it done, and it's going to be of the quality that they expect. And every year it actually becomes better, because I've become better at the things that I do, and I've upgraded my gear. And if you upgrade your gear, then I have a deal for you. No, just kidding. But yeah, money is fake. December 2021. The economy is fake. If you don't believe that, just look how much money has been printed in the last 12 months versus the rest of humanity. Apparently, 40% of all money that has ever been created has been created in the last 12 to 18 months. That's just crazy. Like, literally just type in numbers and be like, okay. Like when you go in for a mortgage or a loan, they don't pull money from the bank. They literally go, now here's the money. And it just literally made it from nothing. So anytime anyone gets a loan, they've added more money to the economy. So not that you're borrowing from someone else and they're putting it here. It's literally like, doop, doop, boop, boop, money out of thin air. And that's why there's so much opportunity in this world for every creator, especially on YouTube. YouTube is such a powerful place to get out as your social media presence. And I talked about this briefly. I think I will do a full video where I talk about, like, you really need to have three things. You need to have a good demo reel. You need to have a social presence, because when people contact you to work on a project, they're not contacting you to find out more about what kind of services you can do. They're literally interviewing you to see if you're a good fit to work with them. So they've already seen the reel. They understand that your site is coherent enough. And then they contact you to see, do I want to work with this person? That's really what it comes down to. So they're not looking for the creative strategy in that first episode. They're looking for compatibility. You're trying to sell yourself as a human being that will work with other human beings. They want to know that, do you understand the thing that they're trying to solve? Do you understand what is the process that they're going to approach in? Do you fit with them in that compatibility? Do you guys jive? So if someone's contacting you, reaching out to work with you, they're literally at the point where they're like, do I want to work with this person? They already know that you can do it because they've seen your work, and then they move on. So yeah, that's something that I want to talk about next year, because I definitely do need to update my demo reel. So I want to do I'm probably going to do a live stream, several live streams, where I'm going to start building my demo reel live. So I'm going to do a video where I talk about what you should put in your demo reel. And so, as someone that has watched countless demo reels over the years, because I've hired a lot of freelancers, both camera freelancers, also motion graphics, editors, 3D. I've gone through so many reels, and I know what I look for. And I'm going to bring in a couple people that look at reels as well. And we're going to talk about what do they look for? What should you put in your reel? How should you structure your reel? What are the things that people like me that are looking to hire people like you, what do we look for? And then after that video, I'm probably going to do a live stream where I cut a new demo reel for myself with footage. And it's been too long since I've updated my reel, so it's about time. And we'll take a look at that. But yeah, so if you're late to the party, Roger, how's it going? So yeah, just to remember, if you want $15 free from MotionVFX, credit to your account, DM them on Instagram that you want to be part of the Raphael Ludwig giveaway, and send them your email that you use to log into MotionVFX. Everyone that does this will get $15 from them. If you don't want to use Instagram, send it to partners@MotionVFX. So again, I'm going to leave this in the description down below for later. I should have put it in now. But yeah, if you want $15 credited to your MotionVFX account, if you use DaVinci Resolve or MotionVFX or Final Cut, then it's $15 that you can put towards any stuff that they have on their site. And they have a lot of sales. They actually had a huge sale recently, like 30-50% off for some pretty big stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna put that into the description, and my next video is actually gonna be about MotionVFX, and just gonna do a walkthrough in DaVinci Resolve and how to use their plugins there, because quite a few people have actually asked me they can't find it, or they're not able to install it properly, or they have and they just can't find it. So I'm going to do a whole little walkthrough about MotionVFX, and I'm going to talk about that giveaway. Literally free $15 for sending them a DM on Instagram, or the email at partners@MotionVFX. Anyways, guys, I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me today. Happy Thursday. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'll see you guys on your videos, and I'll be live next week as well. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Bye for now.